Why do Gen Z women hate men? By Ramboh with an H. We'll look at that. We'll look at that. Would I say the Gen Z women hate men? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't actually say that. It's just a very loud, vocal minority that actually does it. I mean, it's not just Gen Z women. If anything, looking at it, it seems to be millennial ladies. Or, at least TikTok-wise, like most crazy lady encounters I have on TikTok, it's either women in the 30s or really early Zoomer girls, like 28-year-olds, 25, like 20, not 25, but 28-year-olds. That in that category, but we'll see. Okay, always seems like so hopeless. I think Gen Z wrote to have human hate. Yeah. General dislike for other humans, that could also be. We'll just look at it. Trigger warning, this video contains content about self-deletion. If you don't like that, or it's a hard-hitting topic, you should leave.
How they thought we'd react to news of the male loneliness epidemic.
Like, what can I do to help? Is there a GoFundMe?
This is a trend.
Yeah, this is a trend. I've seen it all over TikTok. The first mistake we made is watching TikTok. I feel like, not we, but me and other people. Yeah, this is a trend. This is videos like that were all over TikTok. There was a lady who got absolutely demolished for making like a sound which like a moment of silence for like men's mental health, and she was like singing and dancing, and she got absolutely demolished, deleted all the social media. Rightfully so.
There are a bunch of other TikTok videos with the exact same caption where they're overreacting. Oh, I feel so bad. And then it's the joke that I actually do not feel bad. And
also, homie, I must say, what is this aspect ratio? Interesting.
If you check the comments under all the videos, they are full of pure hate.
Men suffering is literally the motivation that gets me out of bed in the morning. What the actual fuck? What? How do these people even exist? Like, how do these people live? Like, do they avoid, like, do they just live in their homes all day, rotting away in their room without any contact with, so they avoid all contact with men? What is wrong with people like this? And it's 1.3k likes. There's 1.3k people who agree to this, by the way. It's weird because Gen Z are big mental health advocates, just not when it comes to men. Oh, I'm actually gonna push this further. Gen Z is the most pseudo-social generation out of all of them. Not only when it comes to men, but the moment a mental disorder is no longer cute and quirky, it is no longer defended. I find that very interesting. The moment that happens, like, you see people, like, having obvious mental health issues online, and they're, like, kind of, like, cutified and quirky, and then when they turn into, like, not so cute and quirky anymore, they're, like, people, like, shit on, which I find very interesting. Of course, mental disorders aren't an excuse for bad behavior, but it's just very interesting to see.
Hatred. Men's suffering is literally the motivation that gets me out of bed in the morning. For real, men's self-end rates aren't high enough, to be honest.
What the fuck? Just what the fuck? What the heck? Like I said, the sugar and water, it's literally just water, because, like, there's nothing sweet about you. Get out of here.
And this is a real problem where young people, men specifically, the leading cause of their death is suicide. And here's the plot twist: women die from suicide and suffer just as much as men. But here's
that we both suffer from a loneliness epidemic, which is very interesting, even though we're the most connected generation of them all. You know what's also funny looking at this? Here's something funny. Women attempt more, men actually succeed more. Which means that women tend to not use violent methods, while men just say, "Yep, gun it is. Give me the rope. Fuck that. I'm cutting myself, or I'm gonna take medication.
The question, men disproportionately kill themselves more compared to women. Then why do women suffer as much through suicide? It is because they die significantly less, so their death is relative. But please understand this thing. This is not a woman-men problem.
And the thing is this, right? Which leads me to believe that something is a psyop here, and that is therapy. If therapy, or missing therapy and not talking about their feelings, is the leading cause for men's self-deletion, then why do women do it more, even though they have access to more resources? So what I believe, actually, it is not bad mental health. It can be, but it's not majorly bad mental health that makes you end your life, but purposelessness. If you feel useless, why exist? If you're useless, why exist? And I'm gonna quote Dr. K here once. He said that a big part of the men that he dealt with that had self-deletion thoughts showed no sign of depression whatsoever. They just genuinely were convinced, they just logically looked at their life and genuinely were convinced that they serve no purpose. Which is very interesting. So I do think that a purpose is more important than 100% being mentally healthy. Just a hot take. Do you throw the makeup case won't you woman? Women tend to think more about the person who has to clean up their body, so they don't use this violent methods. Could be, I don't know. I'm not a woman.
Everyone in the middle stages of their life will almost try to hurt themselves. In the context of statistics, children will be living the happiest moment and stage of their life, and the same thing applies to the elderly. But
yeah, that means in this case, that's an interesting fun fact. Children or senior people, old people, don't have that issue. It's just people between like 18 and 50, which is really interesting to look at.
if you're a teenager, if you're 20, 30, 40, or 50, statistically, you are living in the most unhappiest moment and stage of your life. And if you look at suicide statistics by age, 45 to 64-year-olds take first place, 25 to 44-years old take second place, then it slightly lowers as the older you get to 65 to 74. But if you're 15 to 24, you're taking fourth place, and then at its lowest is 75 and older. The old people, the ones who are dying, the ones who are broke, the ones who have nothing to live for. Your wife died. They are the happiest.
I feel like, and that's very interesting, maybe that is because they lived so long and they've experienced so much, so they have, or they look at life with they are more grateful for living because they don't have that much time left, but also because, like, they know things are gonna pass. Also, like, I guess they have more appreciation for life in general. How can men not feel useless when they've been told for years that they're awful and serve no purpose? Yeah. True.
How? Why? And at its very lowest, 10 to 14-year-olds. You cannot replicate the happiness, the confidence of old people. You cannot replicate the happiness and confidence of a child because you are living your current stage. You must accept reality for what it is. And more importantly, look at the people who try to. There are so many man children who disregard a lot of responsibilities in their life, trying to play video games, eat junk food, and trying to replicate the happiness they once felt, but they don't understand that the advice old people give you, you have all heard it already. Think everyone naked. Oh, who cares about what other people think? We all know it, but because we are young, you cannot help it because there are other priorities in your life that are more important, where you kind of do need to care because you do need a job.
Exactly. You do. Thing is like, don't care what people say. Well, or what people think. Well, you do need to. Your entire life kind of depends on what people think of you. It depends on whether you get a job. It depends on whether you get a promotion. It depends on whether you get an apartment. In fact, it does matter what people think of you. Because if people don't think well of you, you're kind of cooked. Just the truth. It's understandable though, older people have dealt with this shit and are over it. Young people, kids haven't started it yet. They don't know what awaits them. Very true, very true. I believe it's their emotions, it's just settled. That could also be. Alright, one line that fit with the elders. Once you learn what out of your control does wait, what is out of your control doesn't matter. Everything turns okay then. I have a somewhat simple philosophy. Is there a problem? Yes. Can I fix it? Why worry? Can I not fix it? Why worry? And that's how I look at things.
You are not retired. You care about what other people think because they're the ones that pay your bills. Life is a completely different game at different stages and ages in your life. You personally cannot replicate the happiness and excitement as a child because if you are, you will just be
as a child, like, you kind of don't have to really care because you're a child. You can that's the excuse. You're a child. You don't know anything. But I feel like at like once you reach adult stage, it's kind of like that's or like late early teens, that kind of disappears. At like 15, 16, that disappears. I find that very interesting. And like old people, why would I care? I've been alive for so long. Why should I give a rat's ass?
Escaping the reality of life. You have seen so many adults where all they do is try to avoid responsibility by being slothful, by doing absolutely nothing. I don't want to do it. I don't want to take up any sort of responsibility. And over time, they're trying to chase the happiness they once felt, but they will only end up with worse consequences. And this is a very important point people fail to understand. It is extremely easy to fall into the trap of hating women, fall into the trap of hating men, because there are so many reasons to hate life. And the only
because the gender war is a psyop. Gender war is a psyop so they can milk you for money. It's very simple. Hating men is very profitable. Very, very profitable. Hating women is very profitable for some people. And fun fact, if they teach you to hate men and to fear men, they can make a profit of that. Same with men when they hate women. This gender war is just one thing. Money talks. That's what it is. That's literally what it is. It's just all a psyop.
only way to make yourself feel a little bit more confident, a little bit better about myself is to belittle the other gender. Ha ha ha, me right now with lonely men. What a dumb comment.
Envy is one emotion that almost no one will ever admit to, because to admit to feeling envy is to admit that you feel inferior to another person. We don't like to do that. We want to feel superior. So no one will ever admit that they acted out of envy.
I've watched a bunch of videos on why men are explaining that women suck. I've equally watched the exact opposite, why women say that men suck.
Look at who it is! Look at who it is! Good old, the Wizard Liz, hello.
Suck, but to get everything down to the roots, they'll give you exact pinpoint reasons. Oh, they do this, they do that. Oh, they kill more people. They're so dumb, they die more. But here's the thing.
I love that argument. I love that argument of like, all men, or men disproportionately do this, or men disproportionately do that. You know what? That I could turn that around. Like, there is this, like, for women, when there's generally bad behavior that many women exert, it's like individual. But when some men do it, it's like a collective fault. And I'm like, you know how that awfully sounds like, that collective fault, when they say men do this and this. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like when I say, like, all men are grapists, right? You know what that sounds like? But that's wrong to do. When people say all Muslims are at fault, like are terrorists, and it's like, no, they aren't. I just found it like funny how one is fine if you make it like a collective fault and the other one isn't. I find this double standard very interesting. By the way, this is just an example. I have no issue with Muslims directly. I don't, just saying. Nowadays, humanity not giving many idols to desire. Instead, we hear much more how humanity screw the world. That why we hate humanity. Uh, there are certainly people. There are people you can definitely take as a There are certainly people. Like, there's certainly people you could look up to, but those people don't get any attention. They really don't get any attention. The aim is never hating someone, the aim is blaming someone else you are not able to do, because it's XYZ parents' fault, though some really do hate men, a minority. It's a very loud minority, though. It's a very loud minority. Women just don't get called out for their bad behavior as much as men do. Coming from a woman, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It is out of envy. The reason why they hate the other group is because deep down, they know that they have something that the other gender wants. Most of the time, the men that do hate groups of women are all incels because they cannot get and attract other people as easy as it is for women. And the same thing applies to women hating on men. Men have a higher ceiling of intelligence, and equally they also have a lower ceiling of intelligence. They are more extreme on both sides.
Yeah, look at this, look at this. Women are more in the middle overall, while men are both equally more retarded and more smart. Which is really interesting to generally look at. And like, it's just the truth that men overall perform in some aspects better than the women. It is what it is. Biology.
Sides, and they overly fixate on the extreme sides, the worst sides, and also the best sides. That gives them the perfect reason to hate the rich men. They are also the brokest people. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Envy is a real emotion, and a lot of people cannot regulate and understand it. And more importantly,
I'm gonna push this even further. A lot of people cannot regulate emotions in general because they weren't taught how to. For example, there's also a huge problem with like women having the idea that like men don't like they're cold, they don't show emotion, until they realize that as a man I do have those emotions. I just was never taught to express them. Not only that, but in general I don't feel these emotions as strongly. Like, men don't feel these emotions as strongly as, for example, women. That's okay. Again, that's okay. That comes naturally with it.
this clouds your judgment. You no longer know what you actually like or dislike. Nobody talks about this, but the whole Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, I guarantee you, a big reason why people were willing to hate on Drake is because he's so successful. He is so successful in every single factor that there is. Deep down, the entire audience is envious of what he has, so it's easier to hate on him and root for the underdog. And here's the thing. The reason why old people are so confident and happy as well as children compared to everyone else is because they lack that emotion. They are not envious. An old man walking across the street is not going to compare and contrast the difference of how people look. They don't care. They'll wear whatever bullshit they got in the closet. The same thing applies to wealth. A lot of them are either extremely broke or extremely rich, and nonetheless, they don't care as much as it is important to young people. The reason why young people are so unhappy, and I can't give you this as a one-liner shoot of advice, it is a very complex thing. It's because envy runs in our system. We are constantly comparing ourselves to our
Very true, very true. But I don't think that jealousy is just a synonym. Jealousy is the issue. It's what you do with it. There will be people seeing don't know what to do with jealousy. Either they how do I put this? There's two paths you can go with jealousy, right? Either you hate on the person, which is the bad jealousy, Or you see what they have and you think about how can I get that too, and you work towards getting that too. And a lot of people don't do that. They would much rather go the first route, which is they're gonna shit on the person. They're gonna try to bring them down to their level.
Peers is definitely exacerbated because of social media, but even without it, even when you were all the way young back in the day where there was no technology, people still compared each other based on envy. This person is more successful than me, this person looks better than me, and because you're comparing so many aspects of life to extreme levels of people that are only good at that one thing, you feel inferior, and this leads to a point where it feels like you are the worst of the worst. It really gives
I know how that works. I know how that works. I constantly have that. But again, I don't shit on people. I want to look how can I get that too. That's the difference. But sometimes I do genuinely feel like I'm like the bottom of the bottom and I need to work a ridiculous amount to even like feel noticed. It's very interesting.
You the feeling of no control, and I believe the best way to overcome this feeling is to stop giving so much value onto one attribute of a person. From the outside looking in, I'm assuming girls get eating disorders, girls get very depressed because all they value is being skinny, all they value is looking good. And for men, it's dumb, stupid shit. How much muscles you got, how smart are you, how much
I wouldn't say that, because that can also lead into an eating disorder. You can technically say that if you are overweight, you already are on the way to it's either already an eating disorder or you're on your way to an eating disorder. Straight up. You can, if you're overweight, if you're like fat, you're already on an eating disorder, and more men are fat than women. So, in fact, if anything, men seem to have more problem with eating disorders than women do. It's just that women have it in the opposite, oftentimes also in the opposite direction. There is no man starving himself, but there are men overeating themselves. At the same time, there are more women who are like, they don't eat enough, they, starve themselves.
Money you got, are you good looking enough? Every single one of them are overly obsessed about one key aspect of life, and because they overfixate on the thing that other people have and they don't have, which is envy,
I wouldn't use Arnold. I wouldn't use Arnold. Arnold at this point is kind of, how do you say that? In comparison to many modern bodybuilders, Arnold is kind of small.
Fall down this spiral, and it is a complete disservice to other people and yourself. People are more than just their looks, than just how much money they have. Everyone struggles, and the advice where think everyone naked. I do not think it is a sexual thing. I do not believe it is a literal thing, but metaphorically, everyone is not perfect. There is that weird mole on your body, and there's no use in hiding it. We are not perfect. We are all vulnerable, and you should not judge based on the outside perspective. This is a big reason why children and old people have the highest life satisfaction. It is not because they are dumb, they have so much experience. It's because they've lost the feeling of envy. The younger you are,
maybe they are dumb. I would say young people are dumb. No, it's because there's a difference between having an eating disorder and having disordered eating. Not every big person has binge eating disorder, but they all display disordered habits. Oh, okay, yeah, I could see that as well. Okay, yeah.
At certain ages, you feel more emotions than different stages of your life, and children and old people lack the biggest form of envy. Children don't care. They're too dumb to care. They're asking every single question, and the same thing applies to old people. They're too old to care. They're poor, they're rich, no matter where they are in their life.
I would say children certainly can show jealousy or envy, but it's on a much smaller scale. Like, it's like, oh, this boy has a toy, I want that toy too. So I'm gonna cry to my parents the entire time. Like that's I think it's on a much smaller scale. Like a 5-year-old won't be saying like he wants $1 million, though nowadays I question that if small kids. I mean, I've literally seen 12-year-old money influencers, so at this point it's over.
life status wise, they don't have the time to care, the time to compare and judge. Thank you for watching. If you want to watch a 30-minute version of this video, it is live on the Patreon. Look forward to the future. Do your best. Totally do.
That was a nice video. I like that. I like that. Yeah, though it was really just why people hate each other. That you could summarize the video as why people hate each other. But yeah, I would say that that a lot of our issues come because of comparison, but that just comes with a side that well, we are a meritocracy, so I guess it is what it is. That's how it works. There will always be, because you know, the one that works the hardest will get the most. It is what it is. Yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks. We'll see. I think it will get worse before it gets better. I think men and women will certainly hate each other more and more than instead of it getting better, because they can make a profit of it. But yeah, as for now, all we can do is try to be better. Like, comment, and subscribe.